can't, and it is contagious. One starts and then it spreads around. And he thinks that contagious false alarm signal is the sort of evolutionary precursor of human laughter. And it's plausible. It has the nice feature of involving the Huron trampoline. There's the uh-oh, and then there's the relief. And it has the contagion of laughter. So if you were, that is, if you want to ask the question, why do we laugh as opposed to, scratching our ears or sticking out our tongue or something like that when we find something humorous? Why is laughter, in some sense, the natural involuntary reaction to humor? I think Rama's explanation is probably along the right lines. But remember, I said that laughter can occur in the absence of mirth, and I think that in small children, that's what's going on. They're not amused. They don't have the cognitive capacity to be amused by things. They're just getting pleasure from the laughter itself.
So is there a difference between the two kinds of muscles that?
No, that's I think genuine laughter. It's not nervous. Maybe some of it is nervous laughter. I think it's probably it's Duchenne laughter in the absence, which is simply spontaneously generated. And there's also this. Everybody knows how childish humor, what children find funny when they find things funny when they're really small, tend to be things that adults don't find funny. But children find them very funny. They just love them. I think we can explain why. I know that, where is it?
In the back.
No, yeah, you're right. Exactly. So, I mean, my 2-year-old grandson just, I can do that for an hour. Loves it every time. And laughs and laughs and laughs. Loves it. Well, that's not Oscar Wilde, is it? We have an account of how to tie sort of infantile laughter and delight and amusement with more mature cognitive humor appreciation. Way at the back.
Thanks. I just had a brief question. Where is the bug?
Louder.
Okay, so
Funnier.
Okay, you know the Buddhist joke, make you want to do anything. The question is, where is the bug? So what is the bug that we find when we laugh at the joke?
What is the bug that we find? The bug we find is a mistaken inference. We actually come across a contradiction. We generate a little contradiction in the mental space where which has to be resolved, and it's trivial typically to resolve it. But we find that we've made a commitment to something that contradicts something else that we know to be true.
So does a joke generate its own bug in this case? Is it something?
Does a joke generate its own bug?
Yeah.
Yes, it exploits. Take a comedian at work. A comedian is very much like a psychologist running a human experiment. You want to have naive subjects, and you want to introduce the stimuli in a very controlled way, in just the right way, so that you produce the effect that you want to measure. And if you don't have a naive subject, it will go away. That's why timing is so important. You want, if your subjects, if your audience doesn't have a few facts at their disposal, which you can provoke the insertion into a mental space of those facts, then you won't get a laugh. They'll be clueless. They won't get it. If they have those background knowledge at their disposal, but you draw attention to it too crudely, then you telegraph the punchline and it won't be funny. The whole idea is to provoke its covert entry into a mental space, and then something about the circumstance which shows that although it's covertly entered, it is in this instance mistakenly entered because it leads to an expectation which is then violated. And that's when the denouement happens, that's when the punchline hits you.
Okay. If humor is a debugging mechanism used to help us cope with our planning errors and such, then like in the example with the live replay at a football match, why do we tend to find this situations like that one funnier when they happen to other people as opposed to when they happen to ourselves?
Well,
because in the same situation, we would probably find it funnier if a friend told us that he was waiting for the replay in the live game,
maybe,
than if it happened to us.
Yeah. Well, this is where Hobbes' superiority theory has its application, I think. Remember, the theory is that the initial groundwork for the humor mechanism is in discovering mistakes in yourself. But then, because of the intentional stance, you take pleasure in finding the mistakes in others, and because of, for just the reason that Hobbes says, it's not your downer, it's their downer that you appreciate. And that's where the superiority comes in. I mean, there's people that have tried to show that all humor involves there being a dupe or a schlemiel or a person who's stupid relative to you, the clever joke teller, and to our audience. And there's this very powerful in-group effect of we all laugh at the joke at the expense of whoever the joke is at the expense of. And it's not hard to see why there would be extra pleasure in discovering your own superiority in some regard. I think that's the key there. Yes?
Thank you. I'm going to follow up on this, because I'm not entirely convinced, because you said pleasure. Let me give you an example. I might be aware of the snipe hunt, also called the fool's errand.
Yeah.
Usually a ritual where it's placed in certain social contexts in which there is a common knowledge and you make fun of someone who doesn't, sending a rookie for a left-hand screwdriver. And when he actually does that, or sending him for a file called IG10T, when he actually does that, laughter is automatic. And it's not just pleasure, and there is no kind of debugging, because you already know it is going to happen, or you hope. It's not just smart.
Well, the dupe, the one who goes on the quest, needs some debugging. He's making a big mistake, right?
Yes, definitely. But he's not laughing.
No, he's not laughing.
So we are in a way empathizing with him. So we are in a way seeing the world through his eyes, and that's where the humor comes.
Well, let's look at some variations on the fool's errand theme, which is sort of practical jokes. We don't have much to say about practical jokes, so I'll just sort of wing it here. But some practical jokes are